Well, Mark Reckless is Conservative MP for Rochester and Strood. Sarah Mulley is the Associate Director for Immigration, Integration and Communities at the think tank, the Institute for Public Policy Research. Sarah Mulley, first of all, Yvette Cooper was saying yesterday that if someone wants to move from, say, Newcastle to London for a job, they can't claim child tax credit. But if someone wants to move to London from, say, Prague, they can claim it and they can send the money to their kids back home. Does that seem fair to you?
It doesn't, and I think that's an example of where some of these European rules are in need of change. And these rules were set up in Europe at a very different time when the European Union was much smaller and many fewer people were moving. So I think we do need to look at some of those rules. But those are fairly minor glitches in the overall system, which is not to say that they're not significant, and it's not to say that they don't worry people. And it's correct
would it
that they
feel
should.
minor to you if you were losing child tax credit moving in this country?
No, absolutely not, and that's not what I'm saying. But I think there are bigger issues at stake here around the freedom of movement in Europe. The freedom of movement in Europe has, broadly speaking, been economically beneficial for the UK, and it's important to remember that the vast majority of migrants from Europe do come here to work, not to claim benefits.
Well, Mark Reckless, that's a fair point, isn't it? The DWP's own figures say 7% of working-age immigrants are on benefits compared to 17% of British people.
I mean, I think it's about more than benefits. I think most people probably in this country think immigration has been too high for too long.
Well, maybe, but just on the sort of quote-unquote scroungers claim.
Well, I mean, I think benefits are an aspect of this, and I think to suggest the fact that people with children overseas can receive child benefit for them or get quite substantial child tax credit, at least compared to their home country, and send that home to children who aren't even resident in this country. I think it's quite wrong to describe that as a minor glitch. I think it's a really serious issue.
But this 7% versus 17, what do you make of that?
Well, I think, I mean, I've never said that, you know, people sort of come here primarily to get benefits. I think it's a question of numbers. It's a question of controlling the immigration system and how many people come to our country. But you raise the benefits, and I think it does anger a lot of my constituents that people who haven't paid in this country come to the UK and then really from as soon as they get here are able to claim benefits. And I think that people don't think that's right.
Sarah Mulley, do you agree that for politicians who seem very keen to talk about immigration these days, the benefit system might be a very useful way to make an impact?
I think that migration illustrates some bigger problems with our benefit system, and migration is a very obvious example of how our benefit system has moved away from being a system primarily based on contribution. Now, I think that that's a much bigger question than immigration, but immigration is a very clear representation of that problem to people.
But would there be anything wrong with making some immigrant claimants wait longer for benefits, from instead of 3 months in some cases, 6, 9 or even 12?
No, I don't think there would, and I think there is absolutely a need for a conversation in Europe about how these rules work, because as I said before, they were designed at a very different time and we're living in a very different world now, and I think it is absolutely fair to look at those questions.
Do you think the British economy would be in a better or worse state if it hadn't been for the immigration we've had?
I mean, I think it depends on who you're looking at. I think the problem with the immigration we've had is that people at the lower end of our labour market who are competing with very large numbers of people who have come into the country, I think it's reduced their incomes.
Yeah, I'm talking about the overall state of the economy. Better or worse, do you think?
And you refer to the 17% of working-age people claiming benefits, and I think part of the problem is because employers have simply been able to employ people from Poland and elsewhere. They haven't put the focus into training people in our country, and young people, we've got very high youth unemployment, where people are looking for jobs, want to get that training, and if an employer is deciding it's easier just to take someone who's coming to the country anew, that can't be right. We have to focus on getting young people in this country into work.
Sarah Mulley, is there a net economic benefit that you can quantify?
I think there is a net economic benefit at the aggregate level, but people don't live their lives at the aggregate level, and it's quite clear that the costs and benefits of migration are not evenly distributed, which is why this is such a difficult political issue.
Mark Reckless, has the UKIP surge last week concentrated the minds of many politicians, maybe particularly Conservative politicians?
I think what it says to me, and I think the party more broadly, is we have to succeed in what we promise, which is cutting immigration from hundreds of thousands to tens of thousands. And we're already a long way through that. We started with net immigration of 235,000. We've now got that down to 163,000. The number of visas issued have continued to fall. And I think we are on track to deliver that target and keep our promise to cut immigration to the tens of thousands. I think that's really, really important. Right. We've got to get the system working properly, secure our borders, and show that we can act in the interests of people in this country rather than having European rules telling us all what to do.
I'm grateful to you, Mark Reckless and Sarah O'Malley. Thank you.